A light breeze blows on this hot June morning as I lay head first on the platform at the front of the airboat, my fingers slightly trailing in the water. My eyes quickly scan the water below for any sign of movement. "On the left," a man yells behind me. I turn my head and then I see it, a flash of white feathers in the muddy water. I lean forward and plunge my arm in the water up to my elbow, grasping through the slimy, thick green weeds. I feel a leg brush my fingers and I grab hold and begin pulling the sopping wet goose out of the water. I pull the goose close to my chest and get a better hold with both arms before it can start flapping its wings. Then I gently place it into a bright orange crate behind me on the boat. Other crew members close the small opening on the crate, and I lay back down on the platform as the boat cruises toward another group of birds. This is Wild, a Utah Division of Wildlife Resources podcast. I'm your host, Faith Eaton Jolly, and this is episode 2, A Wild Goose Chase. All right, so I've got Rich Hansen here. He is the division's waterfowl banding coordinator. It's very official and fancy. I got to go out with him today, and we just finished doing some of the goose banding out on Farmington Bay. So kind of explain to our listeners basically what we did today.
Okay, Faith, thanks for the opportunity to be here today. So we're banding at Farmington Bay Waterfowl Management Area today. And the process of banding begins with scouting. You know, we, as wetland managers, we have an idea how our goose production was, but always the day before, we send guys out to scout and find out where the best numbers of geese are. And then equally important is sending guys out to kind of make some noise to keep the geese in the water so they can be captured from the airboat. So we use airboats to capture them. We do it in the month of June because they have lost their primary flight feathers going through the molt, so they are flightless. And we'll get a team on the airboat. We'll have 2 people laying down on the front of the bow, and the geese will flap for a while to try to get away, but then usually at the last second they dive. So the people that are laying down on the airboat will just reach down under the water and pick them up and hand them to people who put them in the boxes for us.
And so, yeah, and it is, like I said, I just finished doing it, and it's quite the experience. Like, it's something pretty unique that I've never done anything like it, I can safely say. So, and you get wet and you're getting muddy and, the geese are flapping. It's pretty exciting. What would you say has been, because you've been doing this for years and years and years. So what would you say has been kind of one of your, I guess, most memorable experiences, capturing these geese off of these lakes?
Funny you asked. The most memorable experience I have goes all the way back from when I was a wildlife technician myself, probably back in like 1999 or 2000. We were actually out here at Farmington Bay, and I was out on front of the bow picking up, and Val Bachman, who was the manager of Ogden Bay at the time, was driving, and he's kind of a crazy driver, so he always wanted to hold on a little bit, and he was spinning on a goose, trying to get it. I think I might have missed it once, and some of the airboat operators get a little frustrated and have been known to throw a person off the front if you miss several times. So I may have done that. But anyways, he went left and I went kind of right, and he ended up running right over the top of me in about 4 inches of water. And there's probably still an imprint of my body out in Unit 1 out there. Luckily, he kept the boat going and got off the top of me, but it did cut my back up a little bit and whatnot, but it's pretty funny looking back. But now I'm very cognizant of who's on my boat, and I don't throw anybody if we're in shallow water.
So you literally fell right off and he ran over you.
I fell right off, right in front of the boat. So he ran right over the top of me, and I came up and he was just laughing, and I was not laughing. I was pretty upset, but it's one of the most memorable experiences for sure.
I was about to say, I'm super grateful you didn't do that to me today as a noob going out there for the first time. So once we capture the geese, and you kind of explain, we put them in the crates and then we take them back to the shore where they have a recording station. So kind of explain like what that's all about and why we do this and why we band them.
Okay, so yeah, once the geese are captured, we'll set up the banding station and go to shore. We'll have some, we've evolved over time. We used to just band them and then just let them go. But now we actually set up some pens where we hold them, some holding pens once they're banded. So we release them all together. And I think our survival rates have gone up tremendously since the geese are all together, the young are with their parents and whatnot. But anyways, at the banding station, we will determine the age and the sex of each goose and then put a Fish and Wildlife Service band on them.
9-7, don't know.
That band has a website for anybody that finds a dead goose with a band on. You go to that website, enter the date, the location that you found that, and then you'll get a certificate back telling you where the bird was banded, how old it was when it was banded, whether it was a male or female. And that's really interesting stuff to hunters. I mean, kind of the trophy as a waterfowl hunter is getting a banded duck or a banded goose. I mean, it's just, I think for most waterfowl hunters, that's probably the highlight of their season if they can get a banded bird. So myself, I've shot my fair share of goose bands, but I've only ever shot one banded duck, and that was when I was 18. That was a long time ago. So some people have a lot of luck and they shoot a lot of them, and I'm kind of jealous of them because it's really cool when you shoot a bird that's from Alaska or Canada, and the same for people that shoot these geese that we're banding, because a lot of these local birds we're banding today will go on a molt migration next year as 1-year-old birds, and they'll end up in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Montana, and it's probably pretty neat for those hunters to shoot a goose from Utah, clear up there. So
basically the whole process and like why we do this is to just help kind of track where these birds are ending up, right? And you kind of study their migration patterns. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Faith. So we learn a lot from these bands. We learn migration patterns, we learn survival rates and mortality rates. The survival rates come from all the recaptures we've caught, and I think half of the adults that we've captured today already had bands on them, and it's pretty cool looking at them because I can recognize a lot of the prefixes. And we caught one bird that we banded in 2005 and a couple in 2006 and 2007. So Farmington Bay birds are pretty long-lived birds. It's pretty impressive. And also from the banding data, we can look at that data and see and set season dates. And we've got this urban goose season in Utah now that allows us to hunt into February. And we had to close the season at some point to be able to add 2 weeks on to the end of the season. So we actually looked at the banding data and looked at band returns, and we closed the season at the time that we were getting the least amount of band returns, because at that point it seems like a lot of the birds are going to the cities or they're just really wise at that point, so they're not providing a lot of hunter opportunity. And then at the end of January and 1st of February, the biological clock is ticking. They're looking to go set up nest territories, looking to get back out to the wetlands, and the birds that are in the city are sick of eating grass and whatnot. They want some of that good wild vegetation that we produce on our WMAs. So it just provides hunters a lot more opportunity.
And so it sounds like a lot of other states are doing this as well, it sounds like. And that's how you can kind of tell when you get a bird from another state?
Yeah, there's quite a few other states that ban, but unfortunately in the West, we are one of the only ones banding. You see a few bands from Idaho. I think Idaho Falls area is where they band up there. But we've got one of the longest consecutive years of banding data in the whole United States. And we've banded geese every year since 1965.
So this is like a once a year operation, round up, catch all the geese, band them, and then let them go. And you do it all over the state, right?
Yeah, so it is once a year. We always go out in the month of June when they are flightless. Since 2006, we have been going into Salt Lake Valley and capturing all the urban birds and then relocating them into the wild. And we've always done that the first full week in June, and then the following week we band northern Utah, and then the third week we either go to northeastern Utah and band around Ouray National Wildlife Refuge and Pelican Lake, or we go down southern Utah and band Fish Lake, Cusharam Reservoir, Scipio, and whatnot. So yeah, we pretty much go all over the state.
So tell me because we hear sometimes, about these nuisance animals. So you were kind of talking in some of the city areas, you have to go and catch these birds to relocate them.
how often does that happen? Like, do you get a lot of calls from people or, managers of golf courses that are having you come and relocate some of these geese?
Yeah, so that all started back in 2005. Our then governor, John Huntsman, got a hold of the Division of Wildlife Resources after he had gone golfing and said, hey, Division of Wildlife, you need to do something about all this goose poop on the golf courses. So then in 2006, we started this urban goose banding and relocation project. And prior to that, the geese were a big problem, but no agency was doing anything about them. So once the word got out that the Division of Wildlife Resources was teaming up with Wildlife Services and moving geese, we got flooded with calls. So that started in 2006, and this was year 14 that we've been doing that. And we hit probably 40 different locations, including nearly every golf course in Salt Lake Valley.
Crazy. Yeah, that's a lot of geese. So in doing all of this, in whether you're relocating or you're just kind of rounding them up and banding them and collecting that data, what would you say is kind of your favorite part overall of doing this operation?
That is a good question, because I've got several favorite parts. I don't love urban goose banding because we're getting up early and going to a lot of places, driving in Salt Lake Valley, which I despise. But I love the fact that we give kids and anybody the opportunity to help out. It's probably one of the only hands-on wildlife projects that we do as the Division of Wildlife, and I think that's really cool. Days like today, though, when I'm operating an airboat capturing geese, I just think to myself, wow, I'm getting paid to do this. I am one lucky bugger.
No, that's awesome. And I actually thought the same thing. I was kind of tweeting about it, and I had people like, what is your job? Like, what is this? And it is actually really cool. And it's fun to always, it's anytime you can get out in nature and be with wildlife, it's a good experience. So anyway, yeah, but we just wanted to let you, our listeners, know a little bit about this program that we have. And if you ever are interested in, coming out, you're welcome to come help with some of these roundups and help, band the geese, put these little metal bands on them and collect that data. And what's the best way for people that are interested in kind of helping out with this to sign up?
So on Facebook, we've got a Utah Division of Wildlife Resources Waterfowl Management Areas page. And I always post the schedule on that page. We always do the urban goose banding the first full week in June. So I typically post a schedule the week before that. So you can count on the first full week. Years ago, we tried making a schedule up, weeks in advance to give people a heads up, but there's so much movement with the geese right up until the day we start banding that we showed up to a couple places where there were 100 geese and we showed up and there were no geese. So that makes us look silly when we show up with 50 volunteers and we don't have any geese there. So we posted the week before, and just check that Facebook page. And I also post a lot of other projects that we do out in the marshes too, if you're interested in volunteering there.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you, Rich, for chatting with us today and giving us some of those details.
We hope that you guys can join us next month for our third episode. And if you haven't yet, we'd love if you could subscribe to the Wild Podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts, and that you'll tune in for more wildlife stories.